Hi, I'm Michael Allison, Commercial Director at Roma Finance, and welcome to another episode of RomaTalks, where we meet people from across the property ecosystem. And today I'm delighted for a bit of something new for ourselves. I'm joined by Jay, one of our BDEs in the Flow Desk team, and Isaac, a recent customer of ours who's recently completed a transaction. They've come on today to tell us all about it. So, hello.
Hello.
Morning.
You can take it in turns if you want. Yeah, morning. So this is the first time that we've ever had a bit of a debrief of one of the cases that we've done. But obviously, I think it's such a special case, and it's something close to our hearts with the regeneration. I think it's something people have been asking for us to do for some time. So first of all, Isaac, thanks for making the journey up to spend a bit of time.
No problem. No problem.
So before we start, then let's find a bit about you two before we go any further. So Jay, tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, how you've ended up here.
Yeah, so I'm a business development exec in Flow Desk for Roma, so an internal BDM, if you like, manning the phone with regards to new brokers, new borrowers. Prior to this, I was at an estate agent doing PRS sales for buy-to-let investors, and then moved into the specialist finance industry, where we are today.
Brilliant. And yourself, Isaac?
So I got a bit of a varied background. I was in the legal field for a while. And then I went into business with my father, who is a construction company owner, with a view to get into development. And we did our first one with the help of you guys. And then here we are today. So yeah, developers, construction company, and a bit of Airbnb.
And a little bit of a legal background as well.
A little bit of a legal background indeed. Yeah, that's in the past now. So I was a barrister's clerk.
Okay.
It's not a lot of people know about.
So, but how would that? I'm guessing there's transferable skills though.
Yeah, certainly. So, in fact, I actually worked within planning law as well, so that's quite helpful. Made some good contacts there. And as a barrister's clerk, you are a bit of a jack of all trades. So there's a lot of skills you're learning, BD, marketing, sales, everything. So it's quite helpful. But yeah, that's now I'm a property developer, which is what I like to have as my title. And
that's the bit. Well, you're smiling when you say property developer. You didn't when you said clerk. So we'll take that.
Yeah, exactly.
You're where you want to be, and you're on that. You've started that journey.
Yeah.
And part of the prep for this, obviously, I went back through the original lending file, and I was really impressed with the submission document that you did. So for the people who's watching, they're obviously all waiting to hear. Tell us about the deal. What was it? Of
course, yeah. So we bought a commercial building in Worthing, which is sort of a town just outside of Brighton. It was vacant. It was once a Mr. Sims sweet shop, right. Quite well loved on the high street as well, I heard throughout, and had been vacant because the landlord basically and the tenant had disrepair issues, and they didn't want to fix it. And then it was a bit of a stalemate. Then it was empty for about a year, and just sat on the high street, sort of dilapidated really. We was brought it by an agent. We went and viewed it, and we saw an opportunity to convert the upper parts into a flat and keep the downstairs parts as commercial. So basically making it a bit more diversified and mixed use. And with my knowledge through Airbnb, we thought we can push the upstairs rental income through service accommodation, and downstairs, who would we bring back? And we sort of had an idea. We spoke to the town. We essentially was having our teas and coffees in the shop while we was building it. And people kept popping their head and saying, what's going to be here? And we was like, well, what do you want? And they was like, well, not another coffee shop, please. And we was like, okay, noted. And then we was like, well, what would you like? And a lot of people said it was a shame that Mr. Sims left. So I got on the phone to Mr. Sims, and now we have a Mr. Sims back there, which is really good.
So it's been repurposed back to what it was loved as in the sweet shop.
Indeed, yeah. New tenants, but new franchisee, but same brand. So for the people of Worthing, in essence, they have their Mr. Sims sweet shop back.
What's really interesting, what struck me there is a year it's been vacant. A shop on the hat. And you only have to look at the press and the doom and gloom that people say about the death of the high street. But you saw something different in that. Walking past this vacant property.
Yeah.
Is that something that you think is an opportunity for people? Is that something that you wanted to get into, or is this just something that fell on your lap? Or
I think, to be honest, we just wanted to be property developers, right? And I think we was sort of looking at different deals, and this one come across the desk and it looked good and the numbers worked, and that's sort of how we fell into it. But getting into it, I think I developed a bit of a passion for regenerative development and development that, say, benefits not just the tenant and the landlord, but the local community. So how can we have an impact greater than just this small building itself? I mean, I think that by bringing that sweet shop back, there was at least a few people that enjoyed that. So yeah, that's something that I think we found a bit of a passion for. And I think there's a missed opportunity in our high streets at the moment, because you look at these massive buildings and they might be generating a decent rent, but if that upstairs is 50% used, why not just cut it off, put everyone into the downstairs and make that residential? I think that's a really good model at the moment.
I think if anyone, when you walk down the high street and you look above a Boots or you just see a couple of boxes and it looks horrible and it's normally full of railings so pigeons can't go there.
Indeed, yeah.
It's a way to bring the footfall back to the high street.
100%. And what I noticed as well is with commercial leases, obviously the tenants take an FRI lease on the whole building usually. So what they'll do is they'll invest their money into doing their shop front up, but often the uppers are neglected. So if you are walking down the high street, as you say, you have those empty boxes, but also they're falling apart. Yes. It doesn't look nice. Whereas for someone like us, we bought the whole building. So we've redeveloped the whole building, which has now made that part of the high street look nicer. And then the tenant is able just to really just spend their money on their bit, but this part looks brand new. And I think it's a better impact for the high street for people just walking down the road.
But what you're also doing, correct me if I'm wrong, is by having the Airbnb element, you're bringing footfall into the area as well. A bit of pounds in pockets.
Yeah.
Either buy some sweets, or it sounds like there's a lot of coffee shops to go to.
Every.
But you bring in the repurposing of a building is bringing a bit of community back in as well.
Yeah, 100%.
Even if it's transient through tourism.
Yeah, well, we've got an agreement with the sweet shop downstairs now that our guests get 20% off, and they've sent quite a lot of business their way, and it's just good. Like, people enjoy that. I feel like if they go stay in that Airbnb, they want to explore the local area.
Yeah.
They're staying above a sweet shop. It's quite cool. They want to go look at the sweets, and it's a good community there, and I think it's a good way of doing the development.
I think if you go back, I mean, obviously I'm a lot older than you two, but if you go back 30 years ago, 40 years ago, the high street was somewhere you went to at the weekend to buy your school shoes, buy the books for school and all this kind of stuff, or buy clothes, and you might just do some kind of leisure experience when you're there, maybe go for something to eat, quick drink or whatever. Turn it on its head, if now the high street is predominantly somewhere which has a leisure experience, and you might get a bag of sweets, you might do something, but creating the homes, we're seeing a lot of this, which is why it's really, we're I think just as passionate as you. Creating the homes repurposes that high street as being a destination again, and somewhere like Worthing, which is a fantastic area anyway.
Yeah, definitely.
There's that opportunity to do it. So Jay, how did the deal come to you? Because this sounds like a great transaction.
It was a great transaction, great to be a part of it. It came through a broker, so an introducer. And when we got the inquiry over, we actually seen the developer pack that Isaac had created himself, which is one thing that's a great tick for us is borrower first mantra, looking at the borrower, experience by trade, and the utilization of that pack with the inquiry made it that much stronger for us to look at the deal and take it on. Within that pack was a real detailed breakdown of the demographics in the local area, house prices, commercial rates, the location plan, the utilization of PD, and it just made it work. It was a real good pack.
It was well thought out.
Thank you.
So where did that come from? Is that something that you did instinctively? Is it something that maybe your dad helped? How did you come to present such a fantastic transaction?
Well, thank you. First of all, it took a lot of time. I would say probably a mixture of different things. I did invest in a fair amount of property training. So there is, there's a mantra there that as much information as you can give, the better in every regard when you have a valuation on the back end or, going to get a bridge at the beginning. But I think I'm someone who likes to be thorough, maybe over thorough. Sometimes I do too much. And I think maybe even, as you said, transferable skills from my previous career, I've seen when cases maybe go wrong in the legal side and how much preparation has to be put together for it. And I also thought for myself, although I'm putting this out there for you guys to look at, it's good for me to sort of work through as we're doing the deal. Like, are we staying on track with this? So it was just a place for me to have all of that information, really.
Yeah, I think, certainly for us, when you're reviewing something, I've said this previously, we operate, you can either have a borrower-lender relationship, which is we give you the money, you go off and you pay us back, or you can operate from almost a business partner. It's because if we're injecting a significant amount of capital, that is to be repaid, that's to enable you to create the profit and the wealth at the back. So somebody who presents such a strong case, and it is worth thinking for anybody who's working with a lender, it's if you've done your due diligence, show it. Yeah. Because it helps someone like Jay structure a transaction, it helps the underwriter, it helps the credit piece. It just means that you're someone you want to go into business with. You've
Yeah.
thought about everything that goes through. So the presentation really was first class, and that's really a thing that a lot of certainly people who are doing it for the first time, or developers, can be sometimes scared of raising finance because it feels that you're just going to get grilled and asked loads of questions, and how much do you spend on the lottery, and what do you do with this money, and where's it? It's not. It's about knowing your numbers, and you certainly did. So do you want to talk about the numbers briefly? How much was the purchase, the build, and
Yeah, of course.
and the win?
So the purchase was 250.
Yeah.
That's what we secured it for. It was up for 285, but we sort of negotiated with the fact that it had been on the market for a while. We was taking a bit of a risk with the planning, although we knew with PD we was almost guaranteed to get it. So we got it down to 250. We'd estimated the build to be between 70 and 80. It ended up coming in at 90. However, that does include our staging for the Airbnb, which roughly is about 10 grand. So we're pretty bang on the budget. Big thing that sort of hit us that we wasn't aware of as first-time developers was soundproofing and fireproofing as well, so between the commercial to residential element. But we managed to sort of absorb that cost by doing a lot of the work ourselves. And then on the back end, we had a valuation for 435 is what we had sort of pushed towards, based on our rental that we'd agreed with the sweet shop and based on the projected revenue. Unfortunately, the valuer got out of bed on the wrong side that day, and he gave us 405. But 405 with our refinance product allowed us to well pay you back and still have cash out. So we left about 90k in that deal, all in all, between three business partners. But for me, it was a long-term play, and it cash flows very well with the Airbnb as well. So that's what it was for
That
us.
recurring revenue from
Exactly.
it as well.
Yeah, exactly. Leaving more money in it. The way I looked at it was, we had money sitting in the bank, and it's not doing anything. So we would rather put this money into a property. We're not trying to get an all money out deal. We know that that's not going to happen. Like, people talk about that, and it is possible, but down south it's definitely harder. So we was like, look, let's make sure we can leave some money in this deal, and as long as it cash flows well on the back end, we've got more income and the money is safer. And that's what it ended up being.
Fantastic. Plans? Have you got a pipeline ready now?
Yeah, so obviously we run a construction firm in Essex. We do mainly sort of high-spec residential builds. However, we are planning to move more into working with developers ourselves, obviously having done it ourselves and understanding it a little bit more. Equally, we're looking to take on more of our own projects, of course. We want to go down the route of some residential builds first, because it's what our team are used to. So we want to plug our current construction team into resi builds and flip those, build up a bit more of a pot, and hopefully get back into commercial to resi and repurposing the high streets.
Brilliant. So you've got your ready-made team.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a fantastic project that you've already done that's earning income in the background. You've got a good established brand. You know, I think you're in a great position, aren't you?
Yeah, no, it was great, and it was a brilliant learning curve working with you guys. You know, I found that some of the brokers, or I spoke to obviously multiple different people at the beginning. I found that it was very at arm's length. Who are you? Where do you come from? Whereas I felt like when I spoke to Jay, it was quite cool. We was able just to be quite honest and say, look, what are you trying to achieve here?
Yeah.
I was like, well, look, I'm not going to pull the wool over your eyes. Here's my numbers. This is what I'm trying to do. And that in itself for me was quite good, because I think people talk about power team, having your power team ready. We've got the build side done. That's great. But now I feel like we've got this side strongly in place. So we're just working on the legals and a few other bits. But it was a good experience to be able to build that team through that project.
No, well, listen, fantastic. You mentioned a few things there about education. And is that something that you've invested in yourself? Have you
Yeah.
education programs?
Yeah, quite a lot. Yeah, so probably spent about 30 grand on it so far. I started off originally with Samuel Leeds, if anyone knows Samuel Leeds, larger than life character, super cool guy. He was a big introduction to this world for us. And then once we sort of went through that process, it then become, okay, we're niching down. We want to be property developers, not necessarily Airbnb host or rent-to-rent specialists. So then I've recently, this year, I'm part of the Developers Club, which is actually based in Manchester. The guys, who set that up, based in Manchester. And that is a bit more sort of dialed in on pure development. And those guys are quite heavily involved in commercial to resi in Manchester as well, actually. So
they are.
It's quite cool.
We know them quite well. We
Yeah,
know,
sure.
I think there's a few Roma borrowers actually in that that club as well. And
Yeah.
I think it's like everything with education, it's finding the ones that fit what you're trying to deliver. And it seems like you certainly got there with this one.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like I've probably got a lot of theory knowledge now, decent amount of practical knowledge. Probably won't keep throwing money at education immediately. I think I'll throw some money at some more projects. But I think surrounding yourself with the right people is key, and having that network of people where you can pick up the phone and say, do you understand what happens with community infrastructure levy? You know, you can't ring maybe your school friend about that, or, you know, your mum and dad. So it's good to have that network around you. And I think sometimes you've got paid to be in those rooms.
I think probably looking at back to the pack and the project that you've just done, I think you could teach a few people a few things there. No, and I mean that seriously, you know, about actually how to, and that enables, you know, it's great that Jay's give that personable touch, and you're obviously a personal person yourself. It's all about business, it's all about relationships, isn't it?
It is indeed.
You know, and the fact that you had it already, all you had to focus on was building a relationship, and it's the relationship that has led to where we've got to.
Just on that point as well, in relation to relationship, I think when the vendor started with regards to completion date, they wanted to move it forward.
Yeah, they did.
I think, we were liaising, contacting each other, saying, right, the next step is this, the next step is that, with regards to the underwriting process or legal process. And I think us having that communication really helped sort of get that funded within, 5-6 weeks?
Yeah, I mean, that was a scary situation. For me, first time borrower, first time developer, when they started pulling all of those little tricks, it was quite scary because we'd already invested a decent amount into pre-planning, legals, all the rest of it. And they was like, I think they said, if you don't complete by X, we want 10 grand more. And so I was on the phone to Jay, like, help, how do we deal with this? And we went back and forth. And in the end, we found out the delay was actually on their side. So I called her and said, if you don't complete by this date, I want 10 grand off. That didn't quite work, but it did definitely speed things up. But it was good to be able to talk about that open and honest as well and get it over the line.
Definitely.
And that was a conversation. It wasn't email after email. That was a telephone conversation between you two.
I think there's a lot of WhatsApp voice notes, isn't it?
WhatsApp voice notes, phone calls. I think we visited the project twice.
You did, yeah.
Twice throughout the build period. So, it was great.
Yeah, it was good to have you down, actually. You saw it when it was completely stripped, didn't you?
Yeah.
And like literally like holes in the floor and everything. And now we've got guests there right now staying in the Airbnb. So completely different.
Another quirky feature is there's was it a steel pole?
Yeah.
And they've repurposed that to where the light switch is.
Yeah.
So it's utilising what you have, the space which you can work with and you can't work with, and just making it fit for the project. And it gives it a nice little edgy feel.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think sometimes like in those sorts of buildings, like the steel was already there. We're not trying to spend hundreds of thousands of pounds completely redeveloping it. So it was like, how do we make this work? And it just thought, paint it red, put some industrial switches on it. Now it's a feature. So yeah, it was a good way to get around it, I think.
Definitely.
Brilliant. So that's the project. What about yourself? What we're doing outside of development?
Well, so I have an apart hotel in Liverpool. That's sort of a commercially leased block of flats that we run as Airbnb. I'm staying there tonight, actually, believe it or not.
Good city, by the way.
Yes, I love it. I love Liverpool. So we run that. That does quite well. That's where I had a lot of the Airbnb knowledge from, which is, I think, why I was confident to say, I know it's going to work on this one.
That's good.
My main focus at the minute is just running our construction business. So we've got some really good clients that we're working with, sort of making their dream forever homes, I would say. These people are, they want us one and done. They want to do their house, they move out for 6 months and they really want it done. So there's a lot of moving parts to that, and, got an obligation to my clients to make sure everything's perfect. So that takes a lot. But yeah, that's probably my main focus at the minute. And personally, just bought my house, my first house. I got the keys on the 13th of Jan. How can I be a property developer without developing that? So we've just ripped it out completely, which my girlfriend is on tender hooks about, because we need to get in, because we also have the news that we are having a baby.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, so a lot happening this year. So yeah, just trying to get the house turned around to get in before the due date, which is pretty much 1st of October.
Okay.
So yeah, lots of moving parts, focusing on the construction side, and then once we get into the house, settle in, hopefully see how newborn baby stuff goes, would look to do a flip. That's what I'm after, a large scale resi flip to plug into our construction team.
Brilliant. Maybe focus on a few sleepless nights first.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And what about yourself, Jay? Away from work, what are we up to?
Building my fragrance collection. So a lot of people don't know
right.
this. Yeah, but I've got a 300 bottle fragrance collection.
Wow.
So trying to build it to 350 by the end of this year, and then with the hopes to develop my own fragrance.
Nice.
So yeah.
You do always smell good as well. I can tell that.
358 aftershaves.
Yeah. So if you ever need any, let me know.
Well, I think I'm okay. I think I still use Cool Water by Davidoff.
Fair enough.
What's your favourite one?
I'd say D&G the one.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a real strong fragrance, but crowd pleaser. So yeah.
Right, okay, well, watch this space. We're going to have hopefully more projects, and maybe we might have Jay back in the future launching the new Roma fragrance.
Yeah.
Roma Pro Grow or whatever we decide to call it.
Yeah.
Listen, guys, I could talk for all day, but unfortunately we're out of time. Fantastic. It's lovely to listen to a live project, successful project, but actually looking at the relationship between you two shows that I think there's more to come. So well,
Yeah, definitely.
and thank you everyone else for joining us. Thank you. Goodbye.